This is the testing video, so I'm going to test over all of the objectives to make sure that the game reaches all of the desired objectives. So objective 1.1, game must be enjoyable, so it must be slightly competitive and completable. So I'm going to demonstrate how to complete the game. Objective 1.2, the game music must fit the theme and environment of the level or screen. So we turn the music on. I play level 1. So this is the start level. The music is supposed to be a little bit more relaxed. As you're getting to know how to do the game, it's not as eerie as there's aspects where you're outside of cave on top of the ground. The music for death sound, sad music. The music for the Toasty Hollows level is a little bit more eerie and different because you're navigating through quite a treacherous, lava-filled level. Objective 1.3 states that textures must be easy to distinguish between and be representative of what they are. So if we play level 1, you can see quite clearly that the sky texture is blue to imit the sky, so you can quite clearly move through it. You can see that anything that's spiky is probably something you don't want to collide with, and as you can see, moving through these darker areas suggests that it's further back, therefore there's a gap of space in which you can move around in. In Toasty Hollows, you can quite clearly see by the floor that it's supposed to be lava, as it's bright orange and has some highlighted areas which allow you to quite easily distinguish between something you should stand on and something that probably isn't the best idea to stand on. Here's objective 2 to create a chapter of playable levels that can be loaded from the menu. So this is the menu, play, here's a level selection screen, 2 levels, that's the chapter of levels. So the menu must be easy to navigate. So we can see if we want to go to the help section, click help and back, options, back, play, back, and by clicking quit, you can end the program. Objective 2.2, text must be clear and concise. So the text is a large enough size and a suitable enough color that you can quite clearly see what each line says. Even in the help here, you can quite clearly read this, so that objective is met. Buttons must be obvious and easy to click, so you can tell something's a button, you hover over it, the color changes, and you can click anywhere within this rectangle of text. So buttons are big enough to click. 2.4, back button must be present on all screens apart from when playing the game, so you can see the back button here, and here, and here. Objective 2.5, you should be able to access the main menu from anywhere in the game whilst not playing a level. So, same thing here, by pressing back you go to the main menu. There should be a main menu with settings and level selection buttons. So here's the settings, options, and this is the level selection. Level selection should have a list of buttons that when you click take you to the level that they display. For objective 2.7, so here we go, we can play Dangerous Caverns or Toasty Hollows depending on which one we choose. Objective 3, levels must be tricky enough so that the user takes multiple attempts to master the level, Okay, you'll see that in the user testing section, as many people who attempted the game took quite a while to beat some of the levels. People who had more skill tended to beat it faster, but they're used to already playing 2D platform games, so they found it more second nature just learning the mechanics. But some people who hadn't played 2D platforms before took quite a while to beat some of the levels. But they are beatable because everyone who completed the survey had completed both level 1 and level 2. So objective 3.1, there must be blocks that can kill the player: stalagmites, stalactites, and lava. If we go over here, these are stalagmites and stalactites. So by jumping into the top, hit a stalactite, and by going here and landing in there, that's a stalagmite. And then obviously on level 2, here's the lava that you can fall through. Deep holes in the ground that if a player falls down they die, so this is on here. So this is another example of an obstacle. And we have non-player entities that can kill the player, so this is for example the enemies and lava drops, but I'll show you the lava drops. So here we go, in here, these are lava drop entities. Here, and one lands on me, I die. Objective 3.4, enemies that can pathfind to the player using A-star algorithm and kill the player on collision. Okay. Objective 3.5, player must be forced to learn and use a wide range of movement mechanics to traverse the map safely and efficiently. So this can quite clearly be seen in level 1. There is a couple jumps that you need to learn quite well, and it is also something that people testing the game discovered that they had to learn all these mechanics, and they managed to do it successfully, as everyone who was tested had completed both levels. I'll show you an example of a different movement mechanic. For example, jumping over entities and things sometimes is better than shooting them. And this jump here, it's not possible just to jump over, you have to jump early and land on the ledge. So that's a different movement mechanic. And here, at this point, you've got to land there, and then you have to jump, wait, and then move to get over to the other side. Otherwise you hit your head like that. Objective 4 is to create pixel perfect collisions and good movement mechanics. So entities, player and non-player must interact perfectly with the blocks so they don't pass through solid blocks. This is achieved quite well and works for all entities, including player and other ones. So objective 4.2 is use raid marching to ensure entities do not move through solid blocks, and that was demonstrated then. Objective 4.3, blocks must be configurable, so that is basically to set whether a block is allowed to do what it can do. So can you go through the block, does the block kill the entity, and that can be seen in the render file. Here we have the blocks, so these are the images, and you also have whether it's rotated, random texture, or extra texture if applicable. And then here is the traversable blocks, so these are blocks that the player can move through, and here are the killing blocks, so the blocks that the player comes into, like if they come into contact with, this is what will kill them. So that's configurable, you can change the list as much as you need. And also note that all blocks that are killing blocks also are present in the traversable blocks list to allow the player to move into the block to then die because it's a killing block. The player and entities must be able to travel forwards, backwards, switches to the left, to the right, and up and down. So that's already been demonstrated by the movement. Objective 4.5, the player and enemies must be able to jump up. So here's jumping. So jumping must have decaying upward momentum, and falling must have increased downward momentum until terminal velocity is reached. Terminal velocity must be defined. So this can clearly be seen with the jump arc. So as the player jumps, they jump, and it decreases in momentum of going up until it turns and comes down again. Similarly with the falling down falls down to, you only can increase up to a certain speed, and then you fall at the same speed. Let's observe for all of the other entities, so including the projectile and other entities. When the player wants to move to the right, the terrain should be moved to the left and vice versa to simulate traversal across the map. So this keeps the player on the central, in the center, and on the screen horizontal. So as you can see here, the player does not move, the player is directly down the center of the screen, and the left and right movement is only the map moving to the left, or and not the player actually moving. The player sprite will forever stay in the center and can only go up and down. The player must remain in the middle of the screen horizontally, but is able to move vertically when jumping, so that's also been demonstrated there. So objective 5, create a feature for the player to shoot projectiles. So 5.1, projectiles must be treated as entities. So as you can see, when the player shoots, an entity is summoned and it moves in the direction with a set velocity that the player is facing. Ray marching must be used, so yeah, that is used. Projectiles hit player or enemy entities, so that can be seen when shooting an entity. So I'm going to go and shoot this one here, you can see. Okay. So create enemies with an aspect of AI. So each enemy must be classified as an entity, so each enemy is an entity. Use the A-star pathfinding algorithm to find the shortest path to the player from the enemy. So I can demonstrate here. Use ray marching to make sure a collision is applied to the enemy entity. So that can be seen there, that the entity is not falling through the floor. So number 7 is to optimize the game to make sure the game works on a broad range of hardware. So this objective is demonstrated in the user feedback and user testing section, as I managed to get this to test on multiple different computers of different levels. I even tested it on one of the school computers and a laptop, and the game runs about the same on every device so far. So 7.1 said to make the game less hardware taxing, so the game runs on a variety of platforms, optimization of certain processes such as pathfinding. So I've already explained in my design section multiple ways I have optimized the game, so please refer to there if you would like to see the evidence for that. So objective 8 is to make code easy to understand and to update using object-oriented programming, inheritance, abstraction, polymorphism, etc. All entities must inherit from the base entity class. Make sure that code is separated into files for specific purposes, and make code easy to add new functions and classes to, and finally comment code so breaks from coding do not result in forgetting what each function does.